Okay.
So
This
welcome back. And yep, go ahead, Michelle.
the session that we're moving into is we're going to be introducing separation, grief, and loss. And with children that come into care, they've experienced so much at such a young age. We're going to go in this section. The characteristics that are highlighted is empathy and compassion, self-awareness and self-reflection, and emotionally supportive and nurturing. Emotionally supportive nurturing. It's a mouthful.
So I will, the podcast that we would have played for that section is not attaching correctly, so I will email that to you as well. So you can listen to the podcast and it talks a little bit more about how separation and loss impacts the children and how it's important for us as adults to be able to recognize and validate the concerns and not try to sugarcoat it or push it under the rug and say everything's fine, it's fine, it's fine, and push it down, but really talk to the young person at their appropriate age and development about what the loss means to them and how they're taking it in and processing it so we can best support them. Okay. So as we go into unresolved loss, we'll talk a little more about unresolved separations and ambiguous loss and grief and how they interfere with forming new relationships.
With
My
ambiguous.
my video doesn't go on.
Your video?
Oh, it's not allowing you to switch over.
Okay.
I just sent you a thing that says ask you to turn it on.
Okay.
Oh,
I
there it
got
goes.
it. Okay. Thank
No
you.
worries.
For ambiguous loss. For that youth that the person is alive but is not available or is less available to the child, so they know their parent is out there. They're just not able to have regular contact or see them. It's not the same as what they were used to. The ambiguous loss is the person may not recognizing that the person may not return and the relationship may not be the same as it was.
And so it usually leaves our kids with that feeling of lacking closure and that it's not final and not knowing like what next. It creates all this uncertainty for them.
Which is children who have been separated from their family due to abuse or neglect often don't have a clear timeline as to when they're going to return. It's a little open-ended. Cannot affect the outcome. They continue to hope for reconciliation. They hope to return and go back home. And at times they feel that they're in limbo. Ambiguous loss also applies to other children who have lost early connections. For example, as children who've been adopted and often wonder about their family. And children who were adopted may also not have had the opportunities to grieve. How do children grieve? When they're young, it's not like when we're an adult. When we're an adult, we can have conversations. For a child, it may come in spurts, right? They may be able to have that conversation for like 2 to 5 minutes, and then they're off on a tangent, and then they may come back at a later time and go back to the original conversation. Grief can show up at expected as well as unexpected times. Something may have occurred, or they saw something and it triggers their memory, and they're thinking about that individual. Grief may look different behaviorally than it does for an adult. Again, kids may not have the vocabulary, but they may express it in their behavior. And it's up to us to figure out what's happening and what they're thinking and what they're feeling. Almost like being a private investigator, digging deep, getting to the root.
Absolutely. And being able to have those conversations to talk about it and acknowledge it. So it allows the child to have that space to talk about what they may be feeling or thinking. Because like how they said that it can show up at unexpected and expected times. There could be something that happens, something on a TV show, something with music that could trigger it. And you'll expect it and you'll say, oh, this just happened. This is going to resonate. They might have a moment and react to this. And then there's other times where it's something out of the blue. You could be having a happy moment, everything's going fine, and all of a sudden the young person is reacting and having these behaviors and having these spurts. And for us as adults, it's very confusing because we're going to be like, what triggered this? Like, what happened here? But if you allow for the opportunity to have those space and the conversation to talk about these things, you may be able to support them and work through and help them process it, because like Michelle is saying, they don't have the vocabulary or the expressive knowledge to be able to say, this is what's bothering me or upsetting me right now. So common ways of ambiguous loss and unresolved grief: difficulty with transition or changes, difficulty making decisions or choices and feeling overwhelmed, difficulty coping with normal childhood or adolescent losses and disappointments, feeling stuck, depression and or anxiety, fearful that they will keep losing people and they don't feel safe, learned helplessness or hopelessness, social isolation to protect from loss again, feelings of guilt and shame, anger, confusion about what happened and whether they were to blame, and holding on to unhealthy relationships. And Michelle had talked about this earlier, like that confusion, that limbo, that feeling like I have no idea what the timeline is. Our really little kids have a difficult time with this because they don't understand where mom or dad are in that moment. But we have to be able to talk to them in ways that a child, like say 6 years old, 7-year old, can understand. But when you're working with a teenager who's a little older and has a little more knowledge and you can talk to them a little more transparently, is talking to them about like, hey, we may not have the timeline right now, but we're going to follow up with your workers and try to understand a little more of what's going on. And yes, the goal is to get you back home to your family, but right now this is temporary. So you're reassuring them as well. Uh, a lot of the learned helplessness and hopelessness, it's so common for our foster care kids because they're told so many different stories, so many different reasons from so many workers and people around them, and they don't know which to believe, which one is actually going to happen. So it's just really keeping those lines of communication open and having transparent conversations, but again, at their developmental age and where they're at. Less is more sometimes for our kids, but being able to not make promises. We're never going to give dates and specifics because we don't know. Things can happen very rapidly in child welfare, but at least letting them know, hey, I'm on your side and I've got you. I'm going to help figure this out with you.
Right. And giving those dates, depending on the age of the child tends to fixate on those dates. And if someone says a specific date and it doesn't happen, you start to see behaviors starting to rise in regards to that. That's why less is more.
And we've all had our kiddo somewhere along the way who has pushed our buttons because they've learned, if I push you away and I keep pushing you away, then maybe you'll go away like other people do, because that's what they've learned so far. And it's really working on showing them and pushing back a little bit to say, you're going to keep pushing, but I'm still here. I'm still your person. You're still my kiddo. You're in the house with me. Like, we're going to work through this, and being that supportive resource for them.
Trauma and attachment issues. The child you may find that the child may feel responsible for the separation. They worry about the family's well-being. Their parents, their extended family, their siblings, especially if they're not placed together. They do hope to be reunited. The ambivalence and unresolved grief may prevent them grieving for loss of family, interfere with forming and adjusting to new relationships, and be expressed in concerning behaviors. Survival mode. Children in foster care may be in survival mode. it's just something that just happens. At times, they don't even realize that they're in this survival mode. They recognize that it's just how they reacted in the past. It's worked. It kept them to be able to move forward. And so they've learned to adapt to their situation. They hope to return home, unable to fully acknowledge loss, so unable to begin to grieve. Behaviors may be intended to build emotional distance or separation from the foster family. Again, especially for a child who's been in multiple placements. And when their behaviors have been to the point where their removal has been requested, they've learned to, I'm gonna reject you before you reject me. And so again, it's their coping mechanisms. It's their, they've triggered their survival mode instinct.
And then along with that, it's also around children moving to adoption must face the reality that they will not return home, but will still think about family. And that's, we had spoken about this last night as well, of like how some of our kids, that loyalty to biological family and feeling like they're betraying a loyalty or doing something wrong, and trying to find that balance and that sweet spot between I can still love my biological family and be attached to them, while also still loving my foster family and being attached to them. But we have to work through that and find that sweet spot and that balance and assist them in that. Also in survival is helping children recognize the loss and begin grieving. Again, just allowing for that space and time to be able to talk through these things and provide that emotional support. So, imagining profound loss. Michelle, this is your favorite activity. So if you can grab a pen and paper, we'll give you guys a minute. If you want to be creative and do it on your phone, that's fine too, but we're going to be listing 10 items on a piece of paper. So let us know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
You ready?
Ready.
Okay. So we're gonna go on this journey, okay? You are moving away and will not be returning. You're looking through your belongings that are packed. You know the truck should be arriving soon. With your paper and pencil or pen, whatever you have. Number your paper 1 through 10. And you're going to you could put either an individual or items or pets
So you're going to list
that
10,
you plan to take with you.
10 items, people, pets, whatever it is, but list from 1 to 10 of those things that you're going to take as you're moving away.
For one item, for one number. The truck is about to pull up. I need a horn.
Beep, 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 beep.
Doreen gave us the beep beep.
Everyone have their 10 items? You hear a knock.
I'm at 5.
Oh, okay.
But what number 1 has 2 things and number 5 has 2 things, but they're interchangeable.
Oh, Doreen, you're not following the rules. One item.
Lotion.
Okay, then I'll put, okay, then I'll just make it. So now I got 6.
You okay?
7, 8.
Good. 10.
Very good. Okay.
9.
My favorite toy.
With that.
That's me. My kids are like, what's that? It's me. No, because they're doing an activity. Shh.
Favorite snack.
Are we ready now, guys?
Yes.
Doreen's ready. Sam, Tony, you guys good?
Yeah, we're pretty much good.
You ain't got 10
We ain't got 10. We got what?
You off the mic.
Oh,
No, no, we can hear him.
we got like 8 things.
Okay, fill it up. 2 more things that you got to take with you to return to you're moving away.
Oh, my phone and my Game Boy.
Mhm. Gotta have your games. Yeah.
Oh.
All right, Michelle.
All right. Oh, you hear the knock? You open the door and you take a look at the truck that is much smaller than you thought. You will cross out 5 things from your list.
So let's cross out number 1, number 3, number 6,
Number 1.
9,
Mhm.
Oh, come on.
and 10.
That's not fair.
My boxes cover the numbers.
I didn't get to do
Oh,
9.
no.
So number 1, number 3, number 6, number
Okay.
9, and number 10. So
Okay,
Sam lost his Game Boy. We know that.
Oh my God.
And I think the cell phone.
I guess I won't have no clothes.
I know.
Have my cell
Okay.
phone.
That's like my friend.
So
Next step.
as you bring the remaining 5 things or your 5 items to the truck, you realize that there is not enough space to put those items in. So cross out 3 more things. So you're
Now
gonna,
we're gonna cross off number 2,
Uh,
number 5, and number 7.
This
again,
isn't fair.
That's
I don't
everything.
have anything
Oh
left.
no, we can't cross out number 7.
so 5 and 7.
Oh Lord. Number 7 was myself.
You packed yourself in the truck?
Yes, you gotta bring yourself.
Well, I got a
I was
pillow and
stretching it.
blanket still. Wait a minute. My glasses is gone. My medicine is gone. My diary.
She said number 2,
So,
number 5, and number 7.
Yep,
So the
2, 5, and
remaining-
7.
yeah, so the remaining 2 items, right, are able to get into the truck with you. And now the truck will take you to a different community to live with strangers.
Oh my gosh. So what were the two, number 4 and what's the other one that was remaining?
Number 8.
Number 8. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So I only get to bring sneakers.
Yep.
And
So
my
only 4 and 8 get to go with you. And now you're in a different community and living with strangers.
Dang.
Mm-mm-mm.
Those are pretty good that I have.
So what do you guys think about that activity and what the point is?
You take away everything.
All the important stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have control?
No.
No. No control.
And some of the most important things,
feel.
yeah, some of the most
That's how
important
we
things
feel.
that would feel safe with and comfortable with and comforted by don't get to go with you always. And that's what our kiddos are feeling when they've been removed from their homes.
They don't
They're
get a
told-
say.
And
They're
if they get
told at a
separated
moment-
from those 2 things, oh boy,
Sometimes
it's,
they only
it's gonna
come,
be raised.
right, and sometimes they only come with the clothes that they're wearing, depending on the
Yeah,
situation.
in garbage bags.
Yep.
Well,
and-
can I tell y'all a little piece of my story?
Mhm.
I was a foster child. I went into foster care at 15 years old, and my brother was 10. And my mother suffered from mental health. No drugs, just I guess the depression just went on, and she suffered from schizophrenia. So my brother, I was outside playing, I was with my friends, everything. And my sister was calling for help. She was just a teen. She was probably about, so I was 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So she was like 22. And she was asking for help. And at that time, it was called ACS, BCW. It was called BCW. They was like, well, we can help you. She said that they manipulated her. But I wasn't home. So they took my brother first. And when I got home, they was like, they coming back to get me. I was like, no, they're not. They called on the phone. Well, you know, you're going to be with your brother. So I felt like I had to go with my brother. I ran away for a while, but I said, no, I have to go with my brother. So I did go without anything, but just knowing that I was going to be there with my brother,
Mhm.
it meant so much more. So I didn't really think about things. In my case, I
Mhm.
just thought about my brother. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I appreciate
Yeah.
that because that's very impactful and
Mm.
putting it out there for everyone to see that this is real life, and this is the stuff like when we have sibling groups, we try our best to keep them together because we know the importance of that connection. And especially at
Mm-hmm.
15 and 10, those are years that you're fully like online. You understand what's going on around you and you're taking it in and wanting to care for one another when you're in a whole new community and in living with strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah. And at first, I didn't. So they said I was going to be with my brother. But then they took me to a home and I wasn't with my brother. And I'm like, where's my brother? And they like, well, they didn't have room. They couldn't. So that was a big lie. But then eventually they put us together. So it was probably about like 2 months later they
Mhm.
put us together. So that was a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it highlights like the impact of that loss and that separation from all that is known to you, all that is normal to you in your everyday, how that impacts
Mm-hmm.
our kids and the feeling of helplessness and
Mm-hmm.
powerlessness. Because when we told
Mm-hmm.
you guys, you don't get a say on what goes in that truck. Now we're gonna cross off these items. And I don't know who it was that was like, oh no, not number one. Why? Why number one? Because it's true, like
Sorry.
when you lose that power and that that control to say, I have autonomy in this, I have a voice in this, it impacts you even as an adult. And imagine for our young people who really don't know what's going on or what's happening in the world around them. So it's to highlight those how it impacts our kids.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because all of a sudden you lost your family, you lost all your stuff, you lost your toy, you lost your
Mhm.
siblings. It's
Your school.
yeah,
Yeah,
your
Yeah.
friends,
Your
yeah,
friends. You don't see your friends anymore. You have to meet new friends.
yeah.
your whole routine.
Somebody,
Yeah. And then
Absolutely.
I came from a home where I was sort of like the boss of the house. You know how you got that one child that's like the boss and growing up to be that matron. And when I moved to the foster home, it was like getting used to their rules, and
Mhm.
also stability because in my home, I was just I was going to school, but I was running the streets also. So my mother didn't really have like I was like the boss of my brother, and it wasn't really no stability. Like as far as like cleaning up every Saturday, I got that from my foster mom, and you know she made my brother take out the garbage in all the rooms throughout the house. So that was kind of different from us for us, but we also liked it. Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And goes back to what we were talking about, learning and setting those examples and being able to say, hey, these are the expectations in this home, and I'm going to help teach you it and what we're trying to work on and building those skills.
Hmm.
So thank you.
Mm.
So
Yeah, it tastes
Michelle,
like this.
That.
into grief, loss, and behavior. And I believe, yep, we have a video clip from Foster that we're going to play.
I was in 7 other foster homes before this one. The differences in between this home and the other homes is I used to run away and now I don't run away. I would always throw stuff around at people and like just tore down things, and so I just don't do it here anymore.
Once a kid is taken from their parent, if they didn't have an issue before, they got one now. And that's what I try to tell some of the social workers. I said, once you took that kid away, they're going to become bitter, they're going to become destructive, they're going to become angry, they're going to have a lot of problem wrong with them because you took them from their comfort zone, from their parents, from their school, from their friends. You took them away and you expect them to be okay with that. They're not.
You see, highlighting what we were just talking about in terms of how it impacts our young people and how they'll be able to manage that, and our role in terms of being able to best support them when they're in the home and transitioning from being removed from their home. So some common grieving behaviors that we may see are depression, disturbances in eating habits and sleep patterns. You know, there's sometimes the kids who, and adults too, you may know this for yourself or friends, that if you're really stressed and overwhelmed and something's going on, there's some people who start eating to, you know, the feeling better by eating some of their favorite foods. And then there's others who are just like, nope, I'm not eating at all. And then they almost go on food strike. The sleep patterns can be different as well. The running away, self-medicating, self-harming behaviors like cutting, hair pulling, or skin picking. The angry outbursts, of course, because they don't know what's going on around them. The anxiety about what next? I don't have control over the situation. What else is going to happen? The unhealthy relationships or intimacy difficulties. Confusion and misunderstanding of their own history. Self-blame. Need to search for something that feels missing, especially for teens and young adults, and the social withdrawal. Talking about grief. Michelle?
Talking about grief, with the children, um, just going back to the characteristics and being able to self-reflect in order to, how can I help, help the youth through this process of grief. There's stages of grief, and that child can be at any point at different times in different stages of grief, and but also in multiple, that if the child is in denial, they could also be in another stage of grief. So it's fluid, it's no set stage, and there's no one saying that you have to go through these steps through grief, but recognizing where your comfort level is and your willingness to be outside of that comfort level to help that youth. But also to tap into the resources to help have those conversations as well. We also know that talking with someone new, especially for a youth, there's been so many people coming in and out of their lives that speaking with someone new can be difficult for them. And if you're able to be part of that conversation, it can help alleviate some of that stress and that anxiety for that youth in order to start talking it through. the key factors in the experience of loss is the child's developmental level, how much they understand, the significance of the people the child is separated from, whether the separation is temporary or permanent, how the loss was communicated to the child, and the degree of familiarity, familiarity of the new surroundings. There's a video that speaks a little more to this.
Grief in children is very different than grief that we see in adults. You know, most adults will be able to converse about it. You know, I'm feeling really sad today. I'm thinking about today's the anniversary of my mother's death, or, you know, my husband passed away 6 years ago, and, you know, I'm just really having a hard time with it. And so, you know, there's that articulation that one would have around these issues. Our children grieve behaviorally. So an example would be they come home from school, you ask them how the day went, the backpack gets thrown on the floor, they're stomping around, and little did we know that maybe something in the curriculum at school triggered a sense of loss for them. So they're going to act out the loss versus then being able to come and sit down at the table and say, I'm feeling really sad today because today was the day that, you know, the police came into my home and the social worker and I was taken away from my birth parents. An example, again, of how the loss in children kind of presents itself is one day in a classroom, a teacher read a book, Are You My Mother? I mean, it's a book that's often read to first or second graders, and it really triggered this sense of profound loss for this child that had been in foster care and removed several times into different homes. And so the child ran out of the classroom. The teacher was just stunned by why he left abruptly. The guidance counselor was called in, the parents were called, and nobody really understood, you know, what was underneath all of that. You know, that really what happened was that it really, you know, triggered the loss that he had been struggling with. So I think, you know, it's important, again, to understand how children grieve and also how things could trigger unresolved grief and loss. When we think about how we can support our children around these loss and grief issues, I think that we have to sort of be a couple steps ahead of them. So if it's a birthday coming up, or Mother's Day, or Father's Day, or a holiday, or, you know, you might be going to the movies and it might have a theme, you know, around families. I think we just need to think about how that might trigger their feelings of loss and separation and be able to talk about it. You know, maybe the birthday's coming up. I know that, you know, I've worked with kids before and parents struggling. Why is it that every time we have a birthday, it's a disaster? And the parents never really understood that as we began to think about the birthday and begin to prepare for the birthday, it reminded them of the loss of the birth parent. You know, who was the mommy whose tummy I grew in? And that's what birthdays are about, the day that we were born. But yet I'm not with those that brought me into the world. And so if parents can begin to talk about it, that, you know, we're going to celebrate your birthday in a couple weeks, and this is what we're planning to do. And I wonder, you know, you might be thinking about your birth mom or your birth dad, and maybe we want to talk about that. Or maybe we would light a special candle on the cake for your birth parent. Something that we can honor. You know, I think the key here is that we can't expect children to forget, and we shouldn't ask them to forget the people that, whether they were psychologically present or actually physically and then separated from, that we still need to honor those connections for them. I think it's important for parents, as we begin to think how you can support the grieving process, is number one, acknowledge that the grief and loss is real and that it's going to be present. The children might not, again, be talking about it, so you want to be really in tune to behaviors and be thinking about, wow, what's underneath some of this acting out or withdrawal or isolation or change in appetite or change in sleeping habits or pulling away from special activities. could be that your child is grieving. And so you want to be able to talk with them about it, ask them what they're thinking, what they're feeling. But don't be afraid to bring up the discussion. And I think that's hard because we sometimes live in a world where we think that if we talk about it, it's going to make it worse, you know, from a parental lens, that if we just steer away from it, everything's going to be okay. Like, why would I want to bring up loss? Why would I want to bring up these separations when, in fact, I think it would be better if they didn't think about it, right? And they just moved on. And I think that's probably the worst thing that we can do, is that we need to be able to sit with their sadness, you know, to embrace that, to give them the space of how to be sad. And I think it's also important that we use our own experiences to talk with children. All of us experience some level of loss in our lives, whether it's a pet, you know, a relative, a spouse, you know, in a community, we've experienced something. And I think we need to let them know that we too grieve and this is impacting us and that we're here for them and we could give them strategies. When we think about how children grieve, you know, we've been talking about that they grieve behaviorally, but we also have to understand that children grieve in spurts. So again, different from an adult that could, you know, sit down and have a conversation for an hour around, you know, their feelings of the loss. Children might be able to do little pieces of that work. You know, it might be 3-5 minutes where you'll get some understanding about how they're feeling, and then they say, okay, I want to go out and play basketball, or can we draw a picture, or can I get a snack? And I think it's important that we respect their ability to acknowledge that at that moment in time, but not push it because it becomes really overwhelming. I mean, their little brains and their little minds and their hearts a lot of times can't process it more than a couple minutes at a time. So I guess patience is really important from a parental lens. And I think that also, as you know, as you interface with helping professionals, you also have to understand that this work, if they're in therapy, is going to take time. It's not going to be addressed just in 1 or 2 sessions. It could take months. I mean, some of the kids that I've worked with, you know, they're still working through this years later. And it also will rear its head developmentally. So it might come up at 3, it might look different at 5, then at 7. In adolescence, you know, the loss often is embedded in a lot of anger and resentment. And then later in life, around key transitions of marriage, the birth of a child, the death of a parent. It's important that we see it through a developmental lens.
For this section is being able to address the grief and the loss for the youth. Addressing the grief and loss with empathy, being willing to have difficult conversations about loss and grief. Being willing to initiate the conversations, help the child tell their story through a live book or other means. And being aware of your own grief history and possible triggers that sometimes could put a little of a hesitant to address this.
And life books especially are just such great ways for the kids to be able to tell their story and their perspective and remember people in their way. A lot of kids in foster care, especially as they're being removed from their family and moved from one home to another, whatever the case may be, something I always find so crazy to me is pictures. There's no pictures. We don't, and in a world that we live in where everything is on like a phone or, you know, electronic, it's really important for our kids to have pictures of family members to help be able to like say goodnight to, or just be able to see so they have that reassurance. And my years in residential, I always made a point of printing pictures for my kids, either of their family members when we went on visitations, when they were with friends, or special moments, prom, birthdays, graduations. taking pictures so that they would have it and have that to go along with them on their journey so that they could remember and capture those moments. So we weren't adding layers to the loss. And they could remember and the special people in their lives and the special moments in their lives. So tips. Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
Tips for helping children deal with loss. Help the child identify what was lost. Remember the list we just made of losses for the child. When possible, incorporate celebrations, rituals, food, other cultural elements into your family life. That way they start to begin to feel that they're part of yours as well. Discuss loss and ambiguity.
Sorry.
No, that's what I mean. Speak about the ambiguity and acknowledge the loss, letting the child know that what they are feeling is normal. And share share an experience of your loss as well. Redefine family. What makes up a family, allowing for openness to family members and to other important relationships in the child's life. Who do they identify as their family makeup? Their aunt may actually be a very close friend of the family, but getting to know who they identify as their family as well. Give permission to grieve. Giving the child permission to grieve the loss of family without feeling guilty. Give the child tools to express grief and opportunities to talk about it. Help the child learn to use drawing, journals, painting, using clay, vigorous exercise, sports, and dance as a safe way to vent their feelings, especially when they have a hard time speaking about it. They'll express it a different way. Making time to join the child in these activities.
Then
Using the life book. Yeah, and with the life book too, it's something that they can continue to add on as well. It doesn't just end when the pages end. It can continue, and also that can also be included in the life book is their accomplishments too. Like if they participated in the school play, putting it in there. If they graduating, again putting that page in there and celebrating them. Tips for helping children address loss and grief. Again, displaying those pictures of people, places, and things that are important to the child. Maybe having a photo in their bedroom on their nightstand. Could be as simple as that. Be conscious of how special occasions can trigger intense feelings of loss. Having a family picnic or pulling out the grill and having family members come over, it could trigger that youth to remember that their family isn't present as well. Keep your expectations realistic, and model healthy responses to losses. Just going back to the example of having family functions and having family over. It could prepping the youth, letting them know this is these are these individuals, they're going to be coming over. Some of them they may already know, some individuals may be new. Talking to the youth about if you're feeling overwhelmed, is there a specific word that I already know what it means, so that way that you're looking for that space to be somewhere else in order for you to ground yourself, regroup, and then be able to join back in. Just prepping that work beforehand to help them through that process. This quote: at the end of the day, the most overwhelming key to a child's success is the positive involvement of parents.
Just something so you guys think about as well. And while we're talking about, the most important thing is going to be how you guys are interacting, your involvement with the kids, and being that supportive resource for them as they work through this loss and their next stage and chapter in life, and try to figure out like what's going on around me. It's going to be the best part of it is going to be your level of involvement and how you're supporting them through that transition. Any questions, any thoughts? We covered a lot tonight.
I have some thoughts. I'm just happy for the tools that we got, we're getting. Because when I grew up, it was kids are to be seen and not heard. You wasn't able to voice your feelings, your opinion, or nothing like that. And it's beautiful how now we're able to have children. We know that children have feelings, and we can let the feelings come out, and the kids could express themselves. Growing up, it was about, you're a kid, go to your room. You're not to be seen or heard. Respect your elders. So it's just nice the tools that we're getting here to learn that kids have feelings too. That's just something I just wanted to say.
Thank you so much for that, Sam. I appreciate that because it's so important to highlight it. We are definitely dealing with a new day and age, a new generation of really being able to say when a kid is what people would say talking back, when they're asking questions, when they're trying to express themselves, it's not seen as a negative. It's seen as it's a growth opportunity. It's an opportunity to say, okay, let's work through this. And having that level of openness and understanding is really crucial and important, especially as you're fostering. So thank you for that. Anyone else?
I think it's great to acknowledge that we don't know everything, right? They can learn from us as well as we can learn from them. And just giving the open space so that we can teach each other something and not feeling like I'm the only expert here and you have to listen to everything I say. Like it's mutual. So I think, having that space to express that and them expressing themselves is important.
Absolutely.
I also think it's important that the kids, they understand that they're individuals and they have a right to their feelings, their own feelings and their own thoughts. And to be able to express that is a right, it's a human right for anybody.
Yep.
That they don't have to shut up and sit down. But they can say, I'm having a bad day. Or they can come in and start slamming doors. But, that's your opportunity when that happens to have a conversation with them.
And not
Yeah.
off. And what I like about what I've learned these 2 past days, it's a confirmation of being a foster mother is needed. I'm needed, and what I'm doing is, I'm doing the right thing.
Important. Yeah.
To be a foster mother, we are needed. We need a lot more foster parents out there.